Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Gribby, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and ghost in disguise,
Alex Dandino.
All right, before today's thrilling adventure to the Spielberg, as always, a little business. People, it's official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod. The best way to support the show, the best way to get the most out of the show. So if you're a patron of ours, we work really hard to make that worth your time and give you some value, right? So we have a huge Patreon exclusive library. You get a vote on what goes in said library, which is cool. We have a mini-series going on. We have feature-length commentaries. We have the ability for you to program a double feature that we'll record for the main feed here. So again, we're working really hard to make that worth your time and support. So if you can and if you'd be so kind, patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod. Another thing you can do to help the show for free, follow us on all the socials, share everything we do so we can cast a wider net, right? Cast a wider net. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. You can email us, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Another great thing you can do to help podcasts like us. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews anywhere and everywhere you find the show. Help us defeat the algorithmic government key jingling bitches that just want to keep us from being happy. That's all we ask.
Truth.
All right, enough. I kind of have a husky voice this morning, which is weird because I haven't had a cigarette in almost 3 weeks now. So
who are you, Pat Welsh?
My voice is getting worse. My will to face the day is getting lower. I feel like white-ass E.T., like the dried-out white turd version of E.T. But I persevere. Because what you find out as an adult, guys, I know this is a childhood fantasy, but let's do a detour into being an adult. Being an adult is finding ways to add more suffering onto your plate. So it's like, oh, my job sucks. Life's hard. I'll have a smoke. And then everyone shames you into, you know what? I'm going to stop that. Because I'll die early. Guess what? I'm going to get hit by a bus someday anyways. So I might as well just be sad as shit the whole That's neither here nor there.
It's a great pod so far. I'm really excited.
I'm going through some stuff. I feel like E.T. separated from my people. The Americans of the 70s. That's when I was meant, when we were free to smoke in our houses with lead-based paint. Neither here nor there. As you can tell, I'm jonesing.
But
I'm staying strong. I don't know. Let's talk about a movie I hated as a child but have come to love as an adult. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. So, this was always a Spielberg movie that I did not like. I wouldn't say I downright hated it because there's some undeniably magic Spielberg moments, right? But as a kid, when someone would put this on as a kid, I would be actually mad. I was like, why are we watching this when the Karate Kid exists, right? When Ninja Turtle, like, why are we watching E.T.? I just never liked it at all as a kid.
Right.
Last summer, it came back to theaters, right? So I took my kids to see it just for something to do. And I sat in that theater and was absolutely overwhelmed by the movie magic pouring out upon me. Right. And it wasn't until I started watching that fucking Spielberg documentary that I figured out as a kid why I hated this movie is because it's about a kid whose dad left him.
Yes.
Right? A kid who desperately wants his dad to be around and wants the help of his dad. And I was like, oh, yeah, I watched it. So it's like, oh, it's a sad movie about a kid who doesn't have a dad and his alien friend almost dies and leaves him as well. So I was like, that's why I didn't like it. But as an adult, I sat there and watched my kids loving this movie, right? I watched this bonding with E.T. I watched this wonderful creature, right? This is one of the kind of like most pitch perfect John Williams scores. It's just everything about this movie really congealed for me last summer. So it's kind of this new thing, right? It's a familiar thing from the past that now I have anew. So Alex, opening thoughts on E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Yeah, this was not one I gravitated towards as a kid. I don't know why. Like, I watched it like
Goonies
else.
First, Monster Squad first.
Yeah, like I was much more about, Goonies is a good one. Like, pretty much this would have been like, when I was a kid, this was like the bottom of the barrel for Spielberg for me in terms of
this was an adults think that you'll like it, so they watch it with you, but really you'd rather watch 100 other things.
If I had that discerning a taste when I was a kid, this would not have been like I'm not watching that, Spielberg. You're 5. What does it matter? None of your business. Like that's.
Mind your business, old man. I'll tell you what
I prefer. No, but yeah, as I got older, I watched it a couple more times and had a few more. there's more meaning to it. And then this last time I watched it, I can say, again, yeah, I agree. Like, it's not a thing I hated. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, I don't hate movies. I pretty much was just like, I'm good. I get it. Like, E.T. phone home. I understand. Heartlight, move on. Like, it never, like, hit me. And today watched it, or not today, Jesus Christ, I hope not. No, last night I watched it. Yeah, it is just like, it's John Williams' perfectly emotionally manipulative music that, like,
oh yeah,
works like it should. Like,
hard
I think this
punctuations,
is the thing.
yeah.
And I don't mean that as like I don't mean that as an insult to John Williams in the slightest. Like, John Williams is the only person I've ever watched who's scored movies who is like completely valid and emotionally manipulating you for a scene. Like, it's
almost
not a needle
every
drop.
technique
It's
in filmmaking
incredible.
is emotional manipulation, right?
But
this
like,
one,
music,
it's as if you were watching a page in a coloring book and you're watching it be painted.
But like,
as
this is something that music does better than most other things that like come together to create a movie. And music, I think, sometimes is very specific, and like, I have a lot of problems with certain people doing, like, there are needle drops that I find to be very emotionally manipulative that basically heighten the emotions of a scene that really ruin it.
It's kind of the difference between like a really kind of a great score that subtly sneaks in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the muscle beneath the skin of the movie versus hey, remember that song? Remember in 4th grade when you were trying to finger Little Mary whatever? little Mary Crotch Rod, whatever they say in Full Metal Jacket? And you're like, oh, well, this doesn't fit in the movie about dancing penguins. But
right, exactly. Like, instead of it being in
4th grade fingering, goddamn. Wow, see, it's rough out here when you don't have dads, dude. It's wild in these streets.
And that's the thing that I think is really fascinating, and what was so beautiful about John Williams.
My mom listens to this, by the way.
I know. Wow.
I always say things. I say things, and then I see my mom, and I'm like, "Fuck, she's like our most loyal listener."
Yeah, and Zaina's gonna hear it, and she'd be like, "Why were you doing that in the 4th grade?"
No, we do the classic thing that our family's always done: is we just ignore things and bury them down deep. Leave them for explosive results later. But
how British of you. No, but yeah, like, John Williams, the emotional manipulation you get from a John Williams score isn't manipulation. It is purely feeling, and it's like this gut feeling that you have. It's not this, like you said, it's not this like nostalgic manipulation you get sometimes when you watch stuff. But it's probably
the moment when Elliot ramps. And the classic, they're flying past the moon, right? Mm-hmm. And that score hits.
Come on, man.
Like, I mean, it's soul melting because you're sitting there and you're like, this is the full combined power of all of those things that made movies so magical.
You have to just like bow down for that moment.
Even who doesn't want to fly through the air with their magical buddy?
It's absolutely
right? Like,
magical.
This poor kid who's being brought low by life, just escaping gravity for but a minute. And this magical thing that shouldn't happen, but because of his great character qualities, he's able to fucking fly for but a moment as the music. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. This movie, it is an odd Spielberg movie, I would say. Because it's kind of the answer to Close Encounter. It's like, what happens to Richard Dreyfuss's family after he completely abandons them?
Yeah. Yeah, right? we're getting the other side of the story.
Yeah, mom's crying because now he's going to fucking Mexico, even though she knows he hates Mexico. It's brutal, right? They live in what looks like an old 90s Pizza Hut, right? It's just, it's a hard sell. And the other thing, too, is this movie is told from such a childish point of view that there's a lot of things that just don't make sense, right? Like, the narrative is kind of clunky at times. But it's told from, I have this new magical toy. I know it's like when you're playing with fireworks. Like, as a kid, I got in trouble. I almost burned our trailer down because I stole my now dad's lighter and put it inside of my Godzilla toy's mouth to fucking melt tags and burn teddy bears and shit, right? Sure. My mom woke up to this smell of fire and, like, I was burning down our trailer, essentially. And so it's essential. This movie is the equivalent of I have dad's lighter and I want to do cool shit with it, but I'm afraid someone's going to get it. So the way they infuse the government agents, there's no bearing to reality, to logic. At the end of this movie, Elliot and all of his family are probably murdered, if not buried in a government facility, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's one of those, we take all of that kind of stuff out. The fact that Elliot's able to waltz out of the house with what would be the most important scientific discovery of all time, right? The fact that the man, unless you think the man's in on it, and he thinks Elliot can somehow revive him, the fact that Elliot's left alone with this alien corpse, right, to do God knows what with it. He's a young boy, a young unfucking managed boy. But so you take all of those kind of like bits of logic out, right? And you just look at it from I have a lighter and I don't want to get caught child version. I think it's something that now I like that, man. I like falling back into that. What was it like?
Right.
When you were a little kid who things weren't going great, but you had this one fucking thing, right? That one comic book, that one fucking baseball card, whatever it was that became your treasure. And that makes it okay. I don't know. So the childish storytelling, I think, has grown on me as I've gotten older.
Yeah. Again, I think this is another reason that people, and I said this on another one of our Spielberg pods, but I've said it a lot, which is like, this is another one of those reasons. And I think E.T. is a great example. E.T. is another one of those movies that people watch, in film school and go like, oh, Spielberg, oh, so overplayed. Like,
yeah,
this is that kind of thing.
If you're a film hipster douche and want to insult one of the greatest filmmakers ever, this is a great
and like I said,
set.
everybody has, it can last an hour or it can last like a decade, whatever you need it to. But like, everybody has that time when Spielberg is like, oh, Spielberg, ugh. And you're like, oh my God, what was I thinking? But this to me is a great example of a movie that like a hipster douche would watch and be like, ugh, so passé. And like just like
I like 4-hour Russian expressionism now. I'm 19.
Sorry, I pretty much only watch Battleship Potemkin. Otherwise, I have
the neighbor girl never had sex with me when I was shooting hoops to Barbie girls, so now I'm into Russian sadness exclusively. Keep your pappy crap, Spielberg.
Have you seen part 2 of Ivan the Terrible? Oh my God.
I relate to Come See because I grew up in a suburban middle-class neighborhood. So I know what it's like to walk through war with your family. Thank you.
I often wake up and watch
Keep your
the
rubber
Seventh
penis
Seal.
alien. Thank you.
Your rubber penis alien is nothing compared to Liv Anderson in Persona. You wouldn't know.
Mommy didn't let me go to Green Day with a soda. I know about trauma. Thank you.
Right, but that is
I was really worried that we were never going to break out of that bit.
I know. I could just go on for hours making fun of that. But that's exactly what this is. Like, that is 100%. This is a movie that I find emotionally beautiful. Like, and I have like I had serious emotional reaction last night watching it. Yeah. This is the exact movie.
Oh, there are moments, yeah, I just kind of cry.
You just like sob. Like, there's no way around it. I mean, even the stuff at that stuff at the dinner table with like the Mexico bit. Like, brutal. It is. Look, my parents are not divorced. They're, together.
There we go.
You still feel that you can feel it. It's palpable.
Well, as an adult, you feel, every one of us who's an adult and is married has been like, what would it be like if this fucking goes tits up?
Yeah.
Like, we all imagine, like, you have that day and you're like, fuck, are we going to get divorced? And you imagine, like, rebuilding your life. Like, when do I get to see the kid, right? Like, especially, I think, because I'm a child of divorce, right? It's something you think about all the time. And it's this reoccurring nightmare I have as a dad. As I come to my now house, I knock on the front door. I can't get in. And Amy opens the door, and in the background, there's a nondescript, faceless man playing with my kids as they laugh, and they don't even come to the door to, like, now, because it's one of the good things about the stage they're in is they're little. So when I open the door, right, 2 kids and a dog come barreling at me, happier than they've ever been for a second because Dad's home.
Right.
And you're like, fuck, what if Dad's gone? So I feel D. Wallace's pain so personally, even though I'm not in that spot.
Well, actually in that scene,
it's a great performance of a mom who's just like, she's trying to hide her pain, and she can't for a moment, but the rest of the movie's her like, I still want to give him Halloween. I still want to do this and that.
Like, I don't, like, I think, like, Henry Thomas,
She's
of course,
so
is... Henry Thomas is great.
Henry Thomas, if we're going to do that bit now, this is one of the greatest child performances of all time.
Well, I was actually about to say, like, Henry Thomas is great. D. Wallace makes me believe this movie.
Did you ever see his audition for E.T.?
Oh, yeah. The audition
where they finally told him he got it?
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I can't believe I used to think that I could be an actor. Like, I trained as an actor for a long time. I've done a couple things, And I watched that and I was like, that kid's like 5.
Yeah.
That kid's 5 and he got it in a way that I just never did.
Like,
it's incredible.
That is such a great, again, like we talk about this, like in all Spielberg movies, there seems to be these like key scenes that make you go, there's literally not a single filmmaker alive that could do this, or not alive that could do this.
Well,
like,
this one is
incredible.
another weird one because it kind of apes a lot of his classic scenes, right? Like we get a lot of the like dinner table and the mimicking, him and E.T. mimicking, right? Like we do in the scene in Jaws and Close Encounters. Mm-hmm. So he has a lot of these touchstones that he's coming back to in this one that I think on the surface, it feels a little bit like Spielberg, you know, as a cover band almost.
The thing that I
But
liked,
then there are moments when it all fucking comes together.
Yeah.
Where it rises above.
The dinner scene is this. The dinner scene to me, like, and it's Dee Wallace that makes it, like, and I'm not saying it's actually not.
I mean, Drew Barrymore's crushing it. It's just a great scene.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's like Dee Wallace stepping away and being emotional. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Adults can be emotional, but like when he's arguing with his brother and fucking just stands up and just like, nothing like that, penis breath.
Oh yeah,
her reaction, where she like half laughs and like that is one of those all-time awesome like cutaway reaction shots, because to me that is the reaction. Look, you and I, like, we're both parents of boys. Like, there's absolutely no way I would not be laughing my ass off if my kid said that. Like, I'd be
that's
fucking
our rule.
dying.
My kids can go free range when they're with me.
Yeah.
Just don't take that shit to school, so I get like a letter from the school.
Right.
But like my 5-year-old, he loves running in the room, flipping me off and running out. He thinks that's hilarious. Or that now it's the D-Generation X suck it. Right. So it's like I'm back in 6th grade when I used to do that to everyone as soon as they turned their back.
Of course.
But that's always been Spielberg's kind of superpower, right?
Agreed.
Is this really crafting a lived-in suburban life.
Big time.
Right? And I think that's, for a lot of audiences, there's a real familiarity with the kind of houses and families and people that, and even the problems they're facing, right? Like, these aren't, like, this is not as depressing as Close Encounters, where it's the absolute destruction of the idea of that, you know, nuclear suburban family. This is kind of the aftermath, right? This is, you know, a mortar hit the ship, but we're still floating, but there's smoke coming up. It's not great, right? And so he's really good at building those worlds where these things play. And, you know, I think he says that in his Spielberg documentary, that propaganda piece, is where he says he likes to tell really personal stories.
Pretty sure all
on the biggest scale, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, there's something in this movie about Elliot finding E.T., right? Because he said in this, he said in the documentary, he goes, you know, this is about what could possibly replace a boy's father? A supernatural alien creature. And I was like, that is a fucking bizarre leap. I think Elliot would fucking UFC strangle E.T. scrawny fucking dick neck in a heartbeat to have his dad back, right? To have that empty shirt in the garage filled. Yeah. I think every kid would murder the alien that we're supposed to love to get their dad back. But you see that's kind of his theory. I didn't realize, too, like, me and Stevie, man, he, like, really took the divorce harder than I think a lot of us did. Like, I was young, and so it was, like, an omnipresent, it's, like, a defining characteristic of who I am. But, like, he internalized it, like, bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm like, we are hitting, like, this is sort of the apex of the internalized, like, trauma that Steven Spielberg, like, this is exactly where this is. Like, I don't know if you...
This is his, like, Freddy got fingered fade. Daddy, can I have some sausage?
It's on the Wikipedia page, but apparently this, like, idea came to him when he was a kid, like, after his parents got divorced. This was, like, his thing is he would just pretend he had an imaginary alien friend. I'm like, this is someone who has been, like, this is an earth-shattering moment in his life. And I don't ever necessarily think that, like, trauma makes people better artists. Like, that's something that I think that's like that's a really romantic notion about, like, artistry.
That's
like,
that bullshit about artists should be starving so they can make art.
You have to be through something terrible to, like, really understand. It's just
no. What trauma is, though, is it's a lit fuse.
Yeah.
And so in moments of trauma, every emotion is so heightened. right? And I think what you want to be as an artist is someone who can access emotional responses, right? That you can paint a scene and you can really paint the emotional background, right, of what's happening in a scene. Not even background. I mean, that's usually what a good scene is based on, is the emotions that everyone's writing.
No,
and I think sometimes
exactly
in those
what it
big
is.
moments, you really internalize those feelings.
Yeah. But I think that this is like fuel that Spielberg used for at least the very beginning of his career. Like later on, like obviously, like as you get into later movies,
The Jaw Shark is his dad's best friend coming to get mom.
like to me, I would say past like Jurassic Park is when we're in awe of Spielberg.
Well, he did this. He did some Indiana Jones, right? Where it's kind of a little more kitschy, serialized stuff. And then he started his Color Purple, Schindler's List. He's like, now he's making like his more adult.
Well, like
Schindler's
Schindler's List came right before Jurassic Park, and that was like to me, like that's such an interesting
Saving Private Ryan. He had a run there where it's like now
that's
he's
an
doing more
interesting
serious
dichotomy,
movies. Yeah,
because like Schindler's List comes right before Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park is like this watershed moment for film.
he was doing pre-production on Jurassic Park, like in between setups of Schindler's List, which is bizarre.
Oh no, he was doing pre-pro, and can't remember if they said he was reviewing dailies or if he was reviewing cuts in the middle. Like they were talking about how Jurassic Park saved his life because besides like obviously Capshaw, but
yeah, Schindler's List
Park
was brutal. Obviously, like that's a harrowing thing to do.
Yeah, so at night when he'd come back, he would be watching passes or like stuff from Jurassic Park, and he was like,
They don't think they were shooting yet, so he was doing like his
really?
storyboards and all that kind of stuff. Right?
I can't remember what the timeline was,
Yeah.
but either way, like, yeah.
Well, it's probably nice to have somewhere to escape during that stuff.
Yeah, no shit. He also, but this is like, that's to me when like Spielberg sort of like finds this sort of moving on point until, of course, The Fabelmans, where he re-traumatizes himself completely. But
yeah, right. By writing his Superman origin story.
Exactly.
Now he's become the overfed artist who's weaponizing his traumas against us. I don't know why we're really going in on Spielberg a lot of
It's not that. I'll tell you why. Because this is what's fascinating about watching early Spielberg movies. Not Duel. Duel's very different than the other ones. But like
Duel, the truck is also his friend Bernie coming to get mom. Mom's a little family car.
I'll tell you, it's because it's fresh in our minds. Because The Fabelmans came out this year. You see The Fabelmans, and now we're watching all these older Spielberg movies that are literally about this trauma that absolutely shattered this guy early on in his life.
The start of his career was very much defined by this kind of emotional period of his life.
So, like, to me, that emotion and what hangs on through, not the, like you're saying, not the Superman origin story part of it, but, like, the things that are very emotionally relevant about the upheaval in his life in The Fabelmans, I think now that we're watching earlier movies, like, is echoing so hard while watching these kinds of movies.
Well, if you watch his documentary, he talks about it so much that you're like, I never realized it was such a thematic touchstone for him, right? But that makes sense. That's what happens. We take our own experiences and mutate them through the lens of whatever story you're telling.
Again, it's all in the eye of the beholder. Mm-hmm. But in terms of E.T., it feels very real. I think that's the thing that makes the movie so unique and so fascinating is how real it feels. Not even like in terms of animatronics, which is awesome too. Like I don't, whatever it is in Spielberg's, he's obviously has great work ethic and everything, but whatever it is in his core values as a filmmaker that gets people to give him the best, especially in this time period, like E.T., which was you
choose a good crew, you work with them a lot, you empower them as artists. Yeah, I mean, he's always been great at that.
But like this, and I don't know about you, but the E.T. animatronics, like the actual E.T. itself, is incredible. Like unbelievable.
It's something I never really loved as a kid,
I never noticed it.
It's a dick, right?
Yeah.
His body's a scrotum.
He's a
his
shriveled
head is a
dick,
dick.
yeah.
I never understood it a lot, but watching it yesterday, so I was curled up on the couch taking notes.
Yeah.
My son Logan was watching it with me, and he was legitimately cracking up. Like, he was watching it, and the scenes where, like, the dog comes in and E.T. I mean, he thought that was fucking hilarious, right? The famous scene of E.T. getting drunk and stumbling around the house.
Yeah.
And then somehow channeling the E.T., like, John Wayne connection for the little boy to, you know, start fucking a riot and kiss the girl he loves.
Yeah.
My son was dying laughing. Like, my son really loved this movie. And it's the classic, you know, character with eyes that are really too big, right? It's the classic, like, kind of cartoon, fucking Gremlins, Baby Yoda, whatever, right? There's some kind of study about that, like, works for us as, like, a cute factor, right? It's the fucking Puss in Boot size eyes or whatever. But there's something about the innocence of E.T. at the start of it, right? And empowering these kids to not Lord of the Flies them, right? They're not sharpening sticks and fucking murdering this little thing.
No.
But there's something about the way, because I always think about this, they talked about when they were designing Doctor Who, right? One of the, somewhere, and I think at the Capaldi years, right? He was talking about it, I think. And he said just the very basic designs of what Doctor Who the character is. It's a creature with two hearts. It's a creature with a screwdriver instead of a laser gun, right? So you know he's there to empathize and fix. And so E.T., right? They do such amazing world building. The ship is just in the woods for no fucking apparent reason. We see a space nursery on the ship with like some butt plug section and whatever. But nothing that looks like real vegetation does, right? So they're out in the woods foraging. And E.T.'s out grabbing shit. They cut to a rabbit that's just totally still around it, right? Letting us know there's no predatory nature. Right. The first signs of a predator is when that truck barrels over the hill and the headlights are on us, right? Now we got a predator. We see E.T. run. Whoa! Yeah. They're scared of us, right? What is the most iconic thing about it, right? These long, simple, thin fingers, right? Not made for mangling. No claws. Just these fucking nubby dick fingers, right? This glowing red heart. That's the beacon of this species, right? This glowing heart that calls out to others. So the iconography of how they even design the basic biology of these creatures is just brilliant. Because a lot of movies, I think you make this movie, right? And there's that scene, like we just finished talking about Planet of the Apes, right? So I'll use this as an example. But we see Caesar in his like Paddington rich kid segment, right?
Right.
When he jumps down to save John Lithgow, they're specifically reminding us that he is still a threat. That he is a non-human threat that has teeth and claws and strength.
Right.
They never do that scene in E.T. There's never a scene where they're like, oh, remember, he's an alien with telekinesis. He could fuck us up.
No, it's
They completely defang, de-teeth. It is just this, even though it's disgusting, like I had a friend in softball who used to have hairless cats that he'd bring to the game, and he's like, you can pet him if you want. And I'm like,
why would I do that?
Disgusting. I don't want to touch sweaty, gross cat flesh. You know what I mean? Like, that's gross. They're disgusting and hideous. That's kind of what E.T.'s always been to me. But the design of what he is gives us so much context for what role he's playing.
I think that it's just incredible.
Like, if he had a layer of Ewok fur, maybe this movie works for me when I'm a kid. I don't know.
I mean, you know what's interesting too is this. I watched this last night. I told Andrea I was watching it, and she was like, oh, that is a movie that gave me a lifelong fear of aliens. Like, she does not like alien movies specifically for this reason, specifically because of this movie. And I think it's because when you're not prepared to see something that looks like that, particularly, like, it is unsightly. Like, E.T. is not like this, like, cute, adorable thing.
No, he's like an obese Dobby.
Yeah,
right? Like,
it's
he's just
gross.
not a cute thing.
It's gross. And I think that's like that's always been a hard thing for me to wrap my head around.
But I think that's the trick, right? Is that he looks, on a surface level, he looks like a fucking disgusting dick.
Yeah.
With huge eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But watching him through his behavior become so adorable and lovable I think that's the trick of the movie, right? Is this overcoming these obvious barriers, these obvious distinctions, right? So this thing should be unlovable to us because we are repulsed by skinless, disgusting, animalistic creatures. Like, have you ever seen a hairless cat? The
It
only
definitely looks
people
like a
who have
hairless
that
cat.
are like people who have snakes, who have like, you know, piercings in places that no one would get except for to talk about how cool they are. Like, no offense, shots fired to my friend, even though I know he doesn't listen. But you know what I mean? They're those people that like they make their decisions. Hey, what'd you do this Saturday? Fucking juggled full-size swords. Well, someone fucking had an electrode on my taint. Like, that seems extra.
It's true.
Those are the people that have hairless, disgusting
I'll say this:
cats.
the only people I know that have hairless cats are people with like full body tattoos, like lots of tattoos.
It's they live their life specifically to remind us that they are different and more unique and better than us. So E.T. on a surface level should not work. You can't cuddle E.T. You can't cuddle E.T. It'd be like fucking hugging like a saggy 80-year-old's thigh.
When we were
Right? Like there's nothing lovable about him except for his adorable behavior, right? Him doing the planets with, again, punctuated by that John Williams score.
Awesome.
You're like, there's something more to him, right? We see Gertie dress him up, right? When he's in his like Prohibition flapper outfit.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like,
my God.
home. And it's like, we relate, right? As his finger raises up, one of my favorite shots in the movie is the silhouette of his finger pointing to home, cutting Elliot's face in half, essentially, with the shadow. Because Elliot is home, but it's not his home because his dad's not there.
Yeah.
So he so relates with the mission of E.T. that he's willing to help his friend escape him, right? And there's just these beautiful moments like that where we want to help E.T. get home, too. Despite all of the fucking physical disgust we would probably feel being in a room with that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll tell you something that traumatized me, to get to Andrea's point. When they do white dog shit E.T.,
oh, dude,
that
that scared
fucking,
me when I was a kid.
I mean, that like was burned in my brain. Like that is
too.
one of the meanest turns we've ever suffered with like a beloved childhood icon. Like that section is fucking.
I think
rough,
when I was
dude.
a kid and
They find him in the cold water and a raccoon is like picking at him.
Yeah,
Like that raccoon's taking some chunks.
When I was a kid and saw that, between that and then, between that and oh my God, between that and Elliot getting sick, like
Yeah,
them
it was
both
like that
getting
and
sick.
Atreyu in Neverending Story.
Yeah, like those two for sure, but like the other like between that and Elliot getting sick because E.T. is sick, like it scared the
Or
fucking
is
shit
E.T.
out of
sick
me.
because Elliot? This is something the movie that like we never really addressed as kids. Is that E.T. is a psychic parasite.
Yes.
He finds this world. He finds a defenseless young child, gives him candy, and then fucking bonds and starts taking from him. Bit by bit, E.T.'s taking from Elliot. And we see he's kind of a life energy vampire who siphons it to flowers and this and that.
Yeah.
But as he's getting weaker, it's probably because Elliot is running out of fuel with which to sustain him.
Right.
So in a way, maybe the movie does show us that E.T. is dangerous, right? He has to essentially die and become a little dog turd to let Elliot get like an hour of strength back. They put a blanket on him. He's like, man, I feel better. And then E.T.'s like, I'm back. If that kept going, he's just going to fucking, it's like the movie Life Force with the bare-breasted vampires.
Right.
He's just going to fucking turn Elliot into a husk. Daddy didn't want you, but I did. As he's like slurping what all that's left of Elliot.
Like the Sanderson sisters in Hocus Pocus.
Next child. The football player with no dentist.
Talk about a way to completely ruin your favorite.
I'm just
guys.
saying, the logical extent of this movie is that E.T. psychically eats and drains the kids, or the government murders this whole family and they're buried in the desert.
You know what's interesting? I saw this. I've seen this movie probably 3 times in my life. Once when I was a kid, another time when I was like a little bit older when I was a kid, and then yesterday. But the thing that I remember when I was like probably in my we went on vacation, like one of our vacations we went to Universal Studios in Florida.
Oh yeah, that was awesome when we were kids.
So we went there because we stayed like near the Universal lot. It was when they used to do it was when they had I don't know if they do it anymore, the Islands of Adventure thing. There. This was like the biggest vacation we ever had, was like going to Universal Studios, which was pretty cool. But we went to, they have the ET ride there. at the Universal Studios thing. I had forgotten most of the ET stuff, and my mom and dad were not like fans of ET. Like they were not like seeking it out, but they were just, oh, let's go on the ET ride. It was weird to do the ET ride, given that I had forgotten most of the movie. And the section comes up where they find like, you know, the dog shit ET, and I was like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh my god! Like it was just like,
I don't know how you did. Lucky.
This live experience of re-traumatizing myself with the movie.
Every kid walks out into the bright sunlight. They're like, but Elliot even says when they get him on that double table, "We're dying."
Yeah, we're dying.
That is a language where the alien is telling him, "Brace yourself, boy. We dead. We dead." Until he releases his fucking psychic claws from him. Right? And so, yeah, he's going to probably eventually kill Elliot. That's probably why he called his family. He's like, man, this drinking's too good. He's like, I'm going to get fucking hooked. I'm going to be a junkie on eating fucking suburban children.
Dear God.
That's his Halloween. Elliot's life force.
Yeah.
Trick or treat, extra treat, your years to live. Elliot dies when he's 13 years old because of this thing. Neither here nor there. But that's another weird thing, right? Because these government people just show up like monsters in a movie, right? They're like coming through the windows for no reason. They're dressed in spacesuits. It's so illustrative of the childish point of view of this movie. Just like completely withdraws you from like the story we're telling. E.T. laying on the floor. Don't take my juice box as Elliot's being dragged away from him. And then all of a sudden these fucking monsters are coming in, right? And then the fact once he realizes they're not going to hurt him, now they're like nice guys, right?
Right. Completely
Silly and kind of like childish storytelling. Those scenes when they're on the table, like I also never forget that guy just fucking pumping E.T.'s chest. The fucking mask on him. And it's an inanimate puppet, right? Mm. And of course they're just not animating it now. It's the same fucking exact thing, but it so fucking scarred me.
Yeah.
Because you're so fucking E.T.'s dead. Like E.T. actually died. This was one of the first. They do this in every kid's movie now, and it's one of the worst fucking storytelling tools in the toolbox. Which is, let's kill a character and then magically they come back like minutes later. So we're going to falsely try to draw tears from you as you think someone's dead. Just kidding. It's such fucking stupid and horrible storytelling. And I don't know how many times it was done before this, but this is the one in my mind where I remember that. Now every Pixar movie does that, right? Oh no, Elsa melted. Just kidding. Or whoever, right? Whoever the fuck Disney character. But they all fucking die and come back now in all these fucking kids movies, Marvel movies, whatever. It's stupid fucking storytelling.
Right.
Except for this one.
Except for here.
It's kind of perfect because E.T.'s a psychic vampire.
Right.
It kind of works. And it's one of the most cathartic moments because Henry Thomas is absolutely crushing this sequence of scenes, right? Drew Barrymore is crushing. Is he dead? I think so. So they never fully pronounce him dead. No. We think he's dead. They put him in the like iron lung. And when Henry Thomas like, ah, and that like scream laugh when he realizes E.T.'s like, right? He pops up like he's fucking Slappy and Goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's just fucking awesome. Like it's such a fucking release from this ultra heavy segment we've been doing.
Yeah.
I love it.
This ultra heavy segment we've been doing that is this really odd subplot to throw into like not even a subplot because that's how the movie starts, but nevertheless it was so unimportant for so long. It
feels like it was just really traumatizing us as kids.
Yeah.
I don't really see the point of this segment of the film, although it is powerful filmmaking. It feels like the fun of the film was them scurrying around on their bikes, running from faceless adults who are trying to take away their childhood innocence.
Right, with their walkie-talkies.
Because E.T., what he is he's their childhood innocence and joy that their father's trying to strip from them personified, right?
Right.
So the joy of them is skirting around adults. The moment we're like, hey, Jingly Key guy has a face, and he's kind of nice. It's like, well, that's not great. And then it's like the fact that they just roll E.T.'s ass out of there. The older brother can just steal an ambulance. It's like, it gets a little clunky, right?
Well, isn't what's strange about that too is, I don't know. I remember watching this last time. I was like, it's weird that Keys ends up being like, it's like, oh, this jingly key guy is like, you're saying like has a face, has a name.
He
like,
also wanted an alien when he was a kid.
are you trying
and he's
to
driven
tell us?
to hunt them down, break their constitutional rights by spying on their house, busting their door down.
Right.
But because he also liked War of the Worlds when he was a kid, he's relatable.
My thing was like, are you trying to tell, like, subliminally, I was like, is this Spielberg trying to say that authority figures are cool? We should listen to the government?
You know what, kids? When the government kicks your door down in your most vulnerable moments, give them a good pat on the back. Say thanks for looking out.
I was thinking last night, I was like, did you get
saying
yelled at?
Spielberg's pro jackboot?
No, not that part. But I was just like, I'm like, did the studio be like, listen, with Jaws, you really threw it against local governments. You got to be nice this time.
We got to get one back for that mayor.
We got to get
as
one
long
back
as you're
for the
cool
mayor
with the
family.
federal power structure, right? Yokel mayors you can go after.
But yeah,
no, it's this weird kind of like, let's get us back to what is great, which is the riding the bikes.
Yeah.
The riding the bike segments is awesome because we all relate to that. Your bike was your portal to all of the adventures
how you
had.
got
It was
out.
great.
Yeah.
It was great. And then when they fucking ride over the cops who don't unleash their guns on them.
Or walkie-talkies in some cases.
Hashtag not my America. Those kids would be fucking riddled with bullets nowadays.
Did your version tonight? Did your version yesterday have the guns or the walkie-talkies?
I don't even know if I noticed.
This is an important sticking point. This was a bit on South Park because of this.
Because they digitally. There is a scene in the one I watched where they added at the very start of the film, where like there's a cartoon ET walking through the forest that looks very digital. So I'm pretty sure the one I watched was a re-edit.
The digital replacement specifically was for the guns, and all the guns got turned into walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
So that's always, I think, like, I watched the version with the guns somehow.
Oh, you did? Nice. Yeah, it was one I already bought.
I watched both. Well, actually, I watched both.
I'm trying to see if they have a list of what was actually changed. Because that one scene at the start, I was like, fuck. I remember when Lucas and Spielberg were like, I want to go in. Yeah, here it is. Editing the guns out.
Yeah, no, so you watched the version with
walkie-talkies, I guess.
Walkie-talkies, because the re-release from 2002 has the opening sequence with him.
I love that he went through, fucked up all these movies. George Lucas went back and completely fucked up Star Wars and is holding hostage any of the original versions. And now they're like, but Spielberg now thinks movies should not be revisited. I was like, thanks, dude. That's like the first guy that like fucked a monkey and starts a pandemic. Is he like, you know what? I really regret that last 3 shots. I wish I wouldn't have done what I done. It's like, well, now there's a bunch of dead people. You did. It is
a weird. I'll say this, like I don't give a shit what if it's walkie-talkies or guns. I don't fucking care.
The walkie-talkies. It's just a stupid like. I want to not do anything pushing the boundaries at this age.
Right.
Star Wars added things that change the way those movies play.
Right.
Like that fucking scene where Han Solo walks over Jabba the Hutt and steps on his tail, and Jabba the Hutt goes bleh, like he's a dog toy. That changes that character to where he no longer is this ultimate fear-inducing gangster at the end of the movie. Neither here nor there. We're not here to fucking argue about
not doing Star Wars.
The assaults of Star Wars on our...
No, but like brains. It is interesting. Like, I watched the one with the guns, and then the movie version I watched actually had the walkie-talkies, and then I found the clip on YouTube. I wanted to watch one with the guns, and there is this fundamental difference when you're watching something like that. You're like, oh wow. These adults could just shoot these children down right now. Like, no problem.
It gets to the bravery of Elliot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the self-preservation of Elliot, because E.T. in his mind's like, I'll fucking end you. Whatever. Where he's like, I'll face down these guns. These grown men and guns. I mean, they're committing grand theft. They are literally stealing what would be the most
significant scientific discovery
in
the world.
I mean, this family and those friends on the bike, they're not leaving those woods back to their normal life. Like, they're done.
They're all going to go live in Area 51 for the rest
They're
of their lives.
fucking finished. Absolutely. They're going to be put on these fucking... They're going to be tortured and hope to draw the aliens back. Like, this is a wrap. They should have got on that ship because they're dead here. Right? But, you know, it gets to that bravery again, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's just all these, like... There's these beautiful... just iconographies, right? The glowing hearts, right? The ship coming back. I love the using the flowers to see how full E.T. is of Elliot's life force, right? It's just...
Yeah.
There's all these, like, beautiful little notes this movie hits. And it just culminates in this fucking amazing bike ride where the kids are flying, which we all wanted to do. It's fucking amazing, right? Mm-hmm. We all want it. And then it's just this great scene at the end of them just saying goodbye to E.T.
That goodbye
and he says, stay.
Oh.
And they're crying. He knows he can't. He's got to go to his family, right? His dad didn't leave. He wants to go back home. And he just goes, ouch. And Elliot just touched his like heart in his head. He's like, yeah, ouch. And that's life, man. Things come and things go. And that's the ouch of being a human being that's alive is everything is transient, man.
Yeah.
Anything that you're latched onto could leave you, could be gone. That could change into like hatred, right? You could become those old government guys who now, you know, Elliot's now seen it, so now he's in the Men in Black running around shooting aliens. Who knows? But that sentiment of stay when he knows E.T.'s not going to stay. I just think that segment's great. And you can only do that if you have a child actor who's delivering this kind of a performance.
Yeah.
But to me, it's just that big, wide open vulnerability of this movie, right? Take away the childish plot and the narratives and this and that. It's this absolute, immediate, unjustified, undescribed empathy these two characters find, right? That immediately, as soon as he gets E.T. in his room and he fakes sick, this is my stuff. These are my toys. It's so innocent. And it's so optimistic of what we hope that encounter would be like. Mm-hmm. Right? And then he shows the brother and the sister, and they immediately are like, we will also help take care of this creature.
Right.
That's what this movie is, right? Is that feeling of being alone and hoping that someone else out there will help take care of that with you.
Yeah.
And it's just ultra relatable.
Yeah. It's the emotions that you assign to... It's the emotions you would assign to how you feel when you're at your most... Like, children are always the most vulnerable.
It's
when
two
you're at your most
left-behind kids choosing that they are family, right?
Yeah.
Choosing that they have power over that. In a world where kids don't have a lot of agency.
Right. I think a lot of the time your chosen family is really important, and a lot of the time that is...
for a lot of people, it's more important.
Well,
right?
A lot of the time,
you
that's
made that choice. You did the work.
Your chosen family is where a lot of stability comes from. You made that life for yourself, so to make it when your family, I guess, never doesn't.
When your piece of shit dad's down in Mexico, fucking clapping cheeks, you're out here being at the focal point of human history,
right?
And you didn't need his ass. And that's what they learn is they fucking run away and commit all these crimes and don't get murdered by cops. Is that I didn't need him. Yeah. Is that I am strong. And I do still have love, right? Like it's that overcoming of that what could have defined Elliot moment. In a good way instead of bad.
Yeah.
Right? Now I have this power, right? I know my siblings have my back. I know mom's got my back. Right? I will overcome. And it's hard to watch him say goodbye, man, when that camera just holds on him as the ship's lifting off.
Oh, God. It's so good.
It's empowering and devastating at the same time. I don't know. To me, this is if you're making the case for where Spielberg is at his most magic, right? I think inarguably, and I don't even think it's close, I think Jaws is his best movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as far as the one that just somehow found that extra alchemy that made it pure black magic. I mean, that movie is so fucking burned in our pop culture. You've never been in a pool or ocean without hearing that dun-dun. I mean, scared a fucking entire population for the rest of all time.
Right.
Right? It's so perfectly made, it feels like, right? I think he has other tech. Like I don't even think this movie as an alien movie is as good as Close Encounters, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he has other more technical movies. I think he has other movies that have a little more soul, right? But I think this is that. If you're like, what made Spielberg that guy? What was his magic? I feel like this is the one I would reach for.
Yeah, I mean,
So I
to
feel
me,
like this is his fucking sweet spot.
this is the wide-eyed innocence of wonder
Yes.
that only Spielberg can do. Like, there's people who have mimicked it, who have tried to duplicate
I mean,
it.
that guy just doesn't feel like he has
like
any cynicism when he
there's
attacks stories.
yeah, that's what it is. Like, this movie lacks so much cynicism that you can't end the movie and feel anything other than a little bit lighter in your day. I really do think that.
Well, I agree. It's just it's perfect scoring. It's wonderful performances. It's just iconic moments, right? Phone home, flying past the moon. It's just fucking wonderful, right? Tying it to the Star Wars universe for no reason when he sees the Yoda costume, home, home, home.
Right.
It's just really fucking a purely magical experience that I'm glad now as an adult I watched it with my kids and they loved it so much. It kind of tore down those old thoughts I had on the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like seeing it for the first time for me. And I love it, man. I think it's just a joyous experience to watch. Even the fucking traumatizing parts.
I agree.
Even that dog turd segment.
It's
fucking rough.
Got to have a little bad to make sure that you
right.
sure that you enjoy all the good.
That's right. Well, people say that.
I'm saying that
right?
for ET. I'm not saying that for life. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I order a 6-inch at Subway, I don't want 1 inch of it to be full of piss.
Yeah. No,
You know what I
that's not. That's
those other 5 inches were better now because of my piss.
It's a very
piss inch.
peculiar way to put that, but sure.
It felt a little too on the point.
Yeah, it was a little specific.
But
has this
everyone
happened to
has
you?
that
Has
image.
someone pissed on a Subway sandwich for you?
Which inch is it? Is it in the middle? Is it at the end?
Has somebody
But
pissed on your Subway
You know
sandwich?
why? Because I think one of the things in life I hate more than anything else
Subway?
is soggy bread that loses its integrity.
Mm.
That's a good kind of like small microcosm of how my brain works across everything. I hate soggy bread that has lost its integrity.
If you've ever been anywhere, say this for the pod people. If you've ever been anywhere eating with Josh Griffey, I can tell you right now, there's like 4 main food groups maybe.
All right. I have a Cracker Barrel palate.
That's not no. That's not Cracker Barrel palate. You literally have like 4 essential things you'll eat, and that's it. But as long as they are done to specificity with any provocation, no like need to send it back, no anything like that. As long as it's a specifically done item, the way it needed to be done, great meal. Otherwise, always.
I will
something
say
wrong.
this: I've never sent anything back. I'm not that guy. I will eat it in disgust and let my disgust be known as I'm finishing.
You definitely are one of those people who will just eat it in spite of itself, which is good. I personally don't send food
You're
back.
not going to defeat me with your fucking shitty skills.
I've never sent food back because I absolutely fear retaliation. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're fucking eating snot.
Yeah,
if
you are.
do that.
Yeah, you are.
That's where you get the piss inch.
You're getting that Yelper special if you're not careful.
Yeah, I have I have some picadillos when it comes to just existing in the normal world. There's no doubt about that.
Don't we all? Look at ET. He figured it out.
I'm like Elliot who never found ET. I was just out there, just
living your life, having penis breath.
Yeah, because I eat piss sandwiches. Neither here nor there.
Wow.
That's it for ET. What a interesting and possibly revealing episode about our own lives.
1 inch of piss on a sandwich.
Honestly, I'm fucking stoked that E.T. Was covered. I'm glad that I love E.T. now. We have one more Spielberg movie. I think this one's funny. We're going to talk about Hook. If you were ranking Spielberg movies we haven't covered,
talk about Hook.
That's probably not one of the high ones. In fact, in the Spielberg documentary, when they say, and Steven did some things that didn't work, the movie they show clips from during that fucking line is Hook.
I think that's fucking bullshit.
And I fucking loved that movie when I was a kid.
Me
I
too.
had my coconut sword that made the bell ring and my Captain Hook hand from Kmart.
Yep.
I fucking love Hook. And I love it even more as a grown-up. So I don't know. I'm excited to make the case.
I do too. I got to be honest with you.
I'm excited to make the case.
Me too. It's going to
Honestly,
be
I love Spielberg movies unabashedly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a great and wonderful month. More awesome stuff to come. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod for other amazing movies, miniseries. Oftentimes you get the deets about what's coming up next. Good stuff over there. So if you can, we appreciate your support at patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. You can email us, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on the socials. Follow and share there. Make sure you leave 5-star ratings and reviews. Write them out. Write out a sentence or two, people, where you find us and why you like us. Helps us out. Thank you guys for your time. We'll see you next week for Hood.